Kicked out my niece and nephew after they mocked and hurt my elderly cat. I put them on a bus back to an empty house. Now the neighbors took them in, and the police are at my door demanding answers. I'm in my late 30s, single, no kids. I work from home, keep to myself, and live with my elderly cat, Tippy. I've had him since he was a kitten. He's 19 now, partially blind, has bad arthritis, kidney issues, and needs meds every day. He mostly sleeps in the same spot, eats from a raised bowl, and still comes to nudge my hand when he wants to be pet. He's basically my little shadow, and the only consistent thing I've had through some very rough years. He's old, that's obvious, but he's still alive, still affectionate, and still mine. I don't expect people to understand that, but I don't really care if they do. A few weeks ago, I was asked to take in my sister's kids. She has a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son. She's been in and out of rehab, and this latest time she supposedly had no one else to take them. A cousin called and made it sound like it would only be for a week or two while they found a longer placement or while she sorted herself out. I hesitated but eventually said yes. I knew it would be uncomfortable, but I didn't expect it to go as badly as it did. They arrived already annoyed to be there. I gave them space, made sure they had clean bedding, groceries they liked, and Wi-Fi passwords. They didn't say thank you once. The first couple of days were passive-aggressive, but manageable rolling eyes, ignoring basic requests like rinsing dishes, walking around like they owned the place. I let it go at first because I figured they were just dealing with a lot. I tried not to take it personally, but then they started messing with Tippy. They laughed at the way he walked. One of them snapped their fingers near his face when he was sleeping and laughed when he flinched. I told them very clearly that the cat was not to be touched or played with. I explained he was sick and in pain and that this wasn't a joke. I don't think they took me seriously at all. Then they started calling me the cat freak. They'd say it to each other in the next room, like I couldn't hear them. I ignored it. I didn't want to fight with teenagers, but it didn't stop. A couple nights later, I heard them laughing and went into the living room to find Tippy locked in the bathroom. I don't even know how long he was in there. They'd wedged a towel under the door so I couldn't hear him scratching. I let him out, and he was limping worse than usual. They acted like it was no big deal. I lost my temper, not screaming or anything, just completely done. I told them this wasn't working and that I'd be making calls in the morning. The next morning, I called a family friend who still lives near their old house. She said she could check on them later that day if I sent them back, and that she'd try to help until a better solution was found. I bought bus tickets and sent the kids back to their hometown. The house technically belongs to our grandparents, but it's been empty for months. The utilities are off. I didn't know that at the time. I thought they'd just go stay with a family friend, or wait until she picked them up. Either way, I wanted them gone before something worse happened. They had their phones, their backpacks, jackets, and enough money for snacks. I told them exactly where they were going and why. I didn't yell, I didn't threaten them, I just sent them back because I didn't trust them in my house anymore, and I wasn't going to risk another incident with my cat. That might sound harsh, but I'd already let too much slide. I was at the end of my rope. That was 3 days ago. This morning, the police showed up at my door asking why I sent 2 minors to an unoccupied house. Apparently, the neighbors found them sitting outside on the porch and called in a welfare check. There was no adult there, and it's unclear how long they were outside before anyone noticed. They're now with some local neighbors, and CPS has been contacted. Now my family is blowing up my phone. The same family that didn't offer to help when the kids were dropped on me. The same family that knew what those kids were like, but said nothing. I've been called unstable, cruel, and unfit to care for children. My sister's rehab sponsor got in touch with me through someone else and told me my sister is accusing me of child abandonment. Everyone seems to be acting like I snapped for no reason, like I woke up one day and decided I hated 2 teenagers so much I put them on a bus to nowhere. Nobody wants to hear what actually happened in my house. Nobody seems to care that the last living thing I actually care about, who's never hurt anyone, was being tormented and injured by kids who knew better. I'm not pretending I handled this perfectly. I probably should have made more calls before I sent them back. I should have done more to make sure someone would meet them. But I was angry, I was scared for my cat, and I was done being treated like a free babysitter. I haven't heard from the kids directly, just from people defending them and blaming me. And the worst part is that my cat still won't come out from under the couch. He barely eats now. He's terrified of the hallway where it all happened. I'm trying to get him back on track, but he's old. This kind of stress could have easily been the thing that kills him. So now, I'm the one under scrutiny. There might be a formal investigation. I've been advised to get a lawyer just in case, and I'm sitting here wondering what else I was supposed to do. Just keep letting them harass my cat until he died? Keep taking the disrespect while everyone else sits back and watches? I don't regret protecting Tippy, not even a little bit, but I do regret ever letting those kids cross my doorstep. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'd say be gentle, but honestly, I'm not looking for sympathy. I just want to know if anyone actually thinks I'm wrong here. Update 1. Since I posted, things have gotten worse. I wasn't expecting a calm fallout, but I also didn't expect to be turned into the family's forbidden one this quickly. It's like everyone was just waiting for an excuse to say what they already thought, that I'm unstable, that I'm not fit to be around kids, that I'm weird for living alone with a cat and not wanting children. I've been getting non-stop messages from relatives I haven't spoken to in years. Most of them weren't involved when the kids were first dropped on me. None of them offered help or support when my sister went into rehab. They weren't in my living room watching her daughter push my elderly cat off a chair while laughing. They weren't the ones who had to clean up after him when he peed himself because he was too scared to walk to his litter box. But now they all have opinions. One of my aunts said I should be ashamed of myself. A cousin told me I crossed the line into child abuse by sending them away without confirming an adult was present. Another relative actually said I should be locked up. Mind you, this is someone who couldn't be bothered to take the kids in when my sister begged her to. But apparently, I'm the dangerous one for not wanting to watch two teenagers torment a dying cat. The police followed up again. This time it was more formal. They asked about timelines, if I confirmed someone would be there, and whether I contacted Child Protective Services at any point. I answered honestly. I didn't lie, and I didn't try to sugarcoat anything. I told them the kids had crossed several lines in a short period of time, and I no longer felt safe with them in my home. I explained that I did call someone, a family friend, who agreed to check in on them later that day. I didn't just throw them into the street with nothing. I gave them a way back, I packed their things, and I told them exactly where they were going. But I didn't confirm if the house had power or running water. I didn't call CPS to report anything. That part is on me. I thought the family friend would handle it once they got there. I didn't think two teens would try to break into a locked house instead of just waiting for the adult I said was coming. I thought they'd act like people with common sense. That's on me for assuming. Meanwhile, my sister somehow found a way to make a phone call from rehab and is now telling anyone who will listen that I abandoned her kids out of spite. She's saying I've always resented her, that I never wanted to help, and that I chose a pet over family. That's the narrative now, that I'm cold, selfish, and emotionally stunted. I haven't responded. There's nothing to say. If she really believed I was a safe, reliable fallback, she wouldn't have left me in the dark about her kids' history. She never mentioned that both of them had been expelled from school for bullying. She never mentioned that CPS had already been involved once before. She just made it sound like they were good kids in a bad situation who needed a quiet place for a few weeks. She lied by omission, and now that things blew up, she's deflecting all responsibility. The worst part? My mom believes her. I got a voicemail from her yesterday that I haven't responded to yet. She's in tears, asking how I could do this to my own family. She didn't say a word about Tippy. She didn't ask how I was doing or if I was okay after being screamed at by police officers and buried under angry texts. It was all about how I failed the kids. I think she genuinely believes this wouldn't have happened if I was more patient. I haven't felt like part of this family in years, but this made it official. Tippy still won't come out from under the bed. He only eats if I sit next to him. He's not himself. I've made a vet appointment for next week just to check if he's okay, but deep down I know he's not. He was already fragile, but what happened scared him in a way I don't think he's recovering from. I feel sick about it. This was never about just being annoyed with some bratty kids. I was scared for him. I saw what they were doing escalate day by day. I saw how little empathy they had for him. I tried to set rules and boundaries, and they laughed in my face. This wasn't just teenage attitude. They were cruel, deliberately. And now I'm sitting here while people act like I ruined their lives. I've stopped answering calls. I've muted group chats. I've left voicemails unanswered. The only person I'm talking to right now is the family friend who I called when I sent the kids back. She was the one person who didn't jump down my throat. And just today, she dropped something on me I wasn't expecting. She told me that when the kids arrived, she specifically told them to wait on the porch until she got there. She was only 30 minutes away, but they didn't listen. They tried to break into the back of the house, and that's what made the neighbors call the police. Apparently the neighbors thought the house was being robbed. So it wasn't even me leaving them in danger, it was them ignoring clear instructions and doing something reckless. And now I'm the one under investigation. That part hasn't reached the police yet, but she said she's preparing a statement and will talk to them if needed. I honestly hope she does. I'm exhausted from being the punching bag in this whole thing. I don't regret what I did. I regret being in the position where I had to make the choice. I regret thinking for even a second that anyone in my family would have my back. They didn't care about my safety. They didn't care about my cat. They just cared about dumping their problem on someone else. If standing up for myself and protecting the one thing I actually love makes me the bad guy, then I'm fine being the bad guy. I'm waiting to see if charges are actually filed or if this all just fizzles out. I might need a lawyer, I might not. Either way, I'm documenting everything. I'm saving messages. I'm writing down dates and times. If they want to play this out like I'm some dangerous recluse, they're gonna find out I'm a lot more careful than they think. But right now, all I care about is getting Tippy to eat a full meal again and sleep through the night without twitching at every noise. That's what matters to me. Update 2. The police haven't charged me, not yet anyway, but they haven't closed the case either. I got a call from the same investigator who showed up at my door. He said they're still collecting statements and that someone will follow up with the friend I mentioned. That's it. No real update. I don't even know if that means anything or if they're just dragging their feet because no one wants to deal with this kind of thing unless someone ends up in the hospital. The friend I sent the kids to has officially submitted a statement. She let me read a copy of it before sending it in. It clearly explains how she was 30 minutes away and told the kids to sit tight. She even offered to grab them some groceries and help them settle in for the night. The part that matters most is that she confirmed she told them directly not to enter the house until she arrived. That's important. It shows they weren't stranded without help. They had an adult coming, they just didn't listen. But that hasn't stopped the rest of my family from losing their minds. It's like none of them care about facts. My mom is still acting like I abandoned 2 toddlers in the middle of a snowstorm. She knows they're teenagers. She knows they're old enough to walk, talk, and lie. She knows the house has been in our family for decades and sits in a perfectly safe neighborhood. But none of that matters. I made them feel something unpleasant, so now I'm the problem. I didn't go to dinner last Sunday. We usually all meet at her place once a month. I didn't text or call to say I wouldn't come. I just didn't show up. I've done everything the right way for years, never made a scene, never pushed back too hard. And still, when something went wrong, they turned on me like I was disposable. I don't owe them explanations anymore. Not after this. I found out through a cousin that people were talking about me at dinner. Apparently one of my uncles said I've always been strange, and that this is what happens when you let people live alone for too long. That one got to me, not because I care about his opinion, but because I know the kind of man he is: loud, dismissive, and impossible to reason with. He was never asked to take the kids in. None of them were. And now they all have something to say about how I handled it. No one asked how my cat is doing. Not one of them. And he's not doing great, by the way. He still hasn't fully bounced back. He's eating more than he was, but he's skittish. He flinches when he hears anything too loud. He hides when the doorbell rings. I haven't had people over in weeks just to keep things calm for him. I've been sleeping in the living room because that's where he's most comfortable. I'm trying. But the damage is done. I'm not sure he'll ever be the same. My sister found a way to call me again. I picked up the first time, mostly because I wanted to say a few things, but she didn't let me speak. She jumped right into blaming me, told me I ruined her kids, said I weaponized neglect, and made her look like a bad mother, like she needed help with that. I hung up. I don't plan to answer again. Then there's the neighbor, the one who called the police. She sent me a message. She said she wasn't trying to make things worse, that she just saw 2 teens trying to break into a house and did what she thought was right. She said the kids told her I threw them out without warning in the middle of the night and that they didn't know where they were. That's the version she told the police at first. But now she says things aren't adding up. One of the kids told her it happened at 7 p.m. The other said it was closer to midnight. One said they didn't have food. The other said they just didn't like what I packed. One said they'd been abused. The other said I was just obsessed with a cat. She said she's starting to feel like she walked into a situation she didn't understand and accidentally made it worse. I haven't responded. I don't know if I will. Part of me wants to, not because I want to clear my name, but because I think she's one of the few people who might actually listen, but I don't trust easily, not anymore. I've seen what happens when people get involved without knowing the full story. I'm not interested in justifying myself to someone who already got me put on an investigation list. I'm taking it day by day. I called a lawyer, just in case. Nothing formal yet, but they're helping me put together a timeline and gather documentation. I printed out the emails with my sister, the text from the family friend, the vet records for Tippy, and even some of the more aggressive messages I've gotten from relatives. I don't know where this is going, but I'm not walking into it blind. I keep getting told I overreacted, that it's not that deep, that they're just kids. But if they're old enough to mock a dying animal, lie to adults, and manipulate a whole situation into getting me investigated, then they're old enough to deal with the consequences of their behavior. Update 3. The investigator came back this week. We met face to face again. This time it wasn't at my door, and it wasn't rushed. I went to the station. They wanted to clarify the timeline and check a few things from the family friend statement. I brought printed emails, phone logs, and even screenshots showing the exact time I bought the bus tickets. Everything lined up. The friend confirmed what I said. She told the kids to wait. She gave them clear instructions, and she was on her way when the neighbors called the police. The officer didn't say much at first, just asked questions. Eventually he said they're not recommending charges. There's a note in the file saying, judgment lapse, no malicious intent, low risk going forward. Basically, they believe I didn't abandon the kids on purpose, I just didn't handle it well. That's fair. I'm not proud of the way I handled it, but I'm not sorry for reacting. I did what I could with what I had in front of me, and the priority was removing them before something worse happened to my cat. They're leaving the case open for now in that bureaucratic way where it's not active, but still on file. If anything happens involving minors again, I'll be flagged. The officer said it more as a formality, but the warning was clear. Don't do this again. I won't. Then came the neighbor. Again. She emailed me this time, not a text. More formal. She said she's reconsidering everything, that she didn't realize the kids had a history of behavioral concerns, and that she's been seeing things herself. Her daughter, who's about 11, has been coming home upset. Said the niece called her dumb, told her to shut up, and rolled her eyes when the girl showed her a drawing. She also mentioned the nephew taking snacks from their pantry without asking. But the one that caught my attention most was her mention of their dog, a big old retriever, calm as anything. Apparently the niece tried to yank its tail, then laughed when it yelped. Sound familiar? The neighbor said they're now in contact with someone from the county to look into emergency foster placement. She didn't say it outright, but it's clear they're not keeping the kids much longer. She apologized for assuming the worst about me. I didn't respond immediately. I needed to sit with it. That night, I wrote out a reply. Not a full breakdown, not an emotional dump, just a brief, straight message explaining what happened in my house. I told her the cat was pushed, that there were prior incidents, and that it wasn't just laughing at a cat like her first impression suggested. I left it at that. She wrote back quickly, said she appreciated the context, and that if the police reached out again, she would clarify her position. I don't want to be dramatic, but I honestly think she might have saved me without even meaning to. Her first call nearly wrecked my life. Her second message might be what finally lets me breathe again. My mom still won't speak to me directly. I've heard from 2 cousins that she's disappointed and doesn't understand why I couldn't just ride it out. That's what they keep saying, ride it out, like it was a thunderstorm. Like I was supposed to just sit there, feed these 2 kids, let them tear through my home, hurt my pet, and then send them off with a smile, because family. One of those cousins also sent me a long message about how they think I need help, that I'm too isolated and don't know how to deal with people anymore. That one made me laugh, not because it was funny, it wasn't, but because it's exactly what people like them say when you stop doing what they expect, when you stop saying yes, when you stop swallowing mistreatment just to keep the peace. I don't need help, I needed boundaries, and for the first time in my life, I actually enforced them. That's what scares them. I started making a list of who I'm cutting off. It's not a short list. Most of my mom's side is on it. Tippy's eating again, small portions. I'm mixing in pain meds and water. He still walks with a limp, and the vet thinks it's not going to go away fully, but he's here. He comes to me when I call now. I think he knows it's finally quiet. Final update. A lot has happened since I last posted. Most of it's been quiet on the surface, but underneath, it's like everything cracked at once, and then kept breaking. Not in some explosive way, just slow, steady collapse, like a house that was already rotted underneath the paint. First off, the kids were officially removed from the neighbor's care. That didn't come as a surprise. I figured once the neighbor started reaching out to the county, it was just a matter of time. What finally pushed it over the edge was another incident apparently. The niece got into it with a kid down the street and said something nasty about the kid's dog. It wasn't just rude, it was mean. The kind of mean that feels intentional. The kind of mean you say to hurt someone because you've done it before and gotten away with it. The neighbors didn't even wait. They called the same social worker who had already come out once, and that was that. Temporary foster placement was arranged the next day. I wasn't told this officially, I heard it from someone else on the street who still talks to the neighbor, but I wasn't surprised. The writing was on the wall. After that, my sister tried to make her big return. She finished rehab, got clean, supposedly, and then came out swinging, not with apologies, not with ownership, just anger. She contacted a lawyer, or at least claimed she did, and tried to threaten me with a civil case. Said I caused emotional harm to her children, that I abandoned them in a crisis and traumatized them. I didn't respond. I passed the message to my own legal contact and blocked her again. She has no case, and she knows it. It's just another way of trying to shift blame instead of dealing with the mess she created and left behind. I've heard she's trying to get the kids back now. From what I understand, she's facing resistance. Her past record is working against her. There's no stable income, no consistent housing. The CPS reports are stacking up. I'm not celebrating that. I'm really not. But I'm not pretending to care either. What bothers me more is how fast the rest of the family turned it into a loyalty test. My mother especially. She's barely said a word to me directly since the incident, but according to cousins and other relatives, she's made it clear she's ashamed and doesn't understand why I would do something so cruel to children. That's the line they all keep repeating, to children, as if the word alone erases everything else. No one seems to care that those same children were cruel to a defenseless animal, that they pushed a sick elderly cat off a chair and laughed while it limped away, that they locked it in a bathroom, that they mocked me in my own home, broke rules on purpose, and made everything feel unsafe. That part doesn't matter to them, because in their eyes, I don't matter. I'm just the childless sibling, the quiet one, the loner, easy to blame. It's almost funny. I did what no one else in the family was willing to do. I took them in when no one else stepped up. I fed them, sheltered them, tried to make space for them in a house that was never supposed to have kids in it. I endured 2 weeks of eye-rolling, cruelty, and complete disregard, and the moment I hit a limit, I became the villain. I've blocked half the family at this point, not out of spite, just for peace. I don't need to hear their takes. I don't need to explain myself over and over again to people who never had any intention of understanding. I moved too. It wasn't planned, but I found a smaller apartment that suited me better. No shared walls, quieter, easier to clean. I started the legal name change process last week. Just the last name. I don't want to carry theirs anymore. Not because I'm running, but because I'm done. If they ever want to find me again, they're going to have to go out of their way. And if they do, they better have something worth saying. The only part that still hits me hard is the cat. Tippy held on longer than anyone thought he would. He started eating again, even gained a little weight. I got into a rhythm again, vet appointments, meds, warm spots by the window, soft food, heating pads. It felt normal again for a little while. Not perfect, but calm. And then one morning he didn't get up. It wasn't dramatic. No signs of pain. Just stillness. I sat with him for a long time before I could even think about moving. I don't think I've cried like that since I was a kid. It wasn't just about him, it was everything. The loneliness, the loss, the complete unraveling of a family that, in hindsight, was never really whole to begin with. I buried him in a quiet spot, not far from a place he used to love, a patch of sun near the garden in the old place. I went back just to do that. I didn't tell anyone. Just me, a small wooden box, and a towel he used to sleep on. I didn't expect peace after all this. I didn't expect vindication or some big apology from the people who hurt me. But I do feel something close to relief. No one is yelling. No one is demanding I play the role of caretaker or emotional punching bag or backup parent. The phone is mostly quiet now. The air in my house feels like mine again. I've started seeing a therapist. I didn't do it because of the family. I did it because I need to figure out how to trust again, not them. I'm done with them, but people in general. I need to remember what it feels like to build something with someone and not constantly brace for disappointment. And I'm not rushing it. I'm not trying to rebuild just to say I did. For now, I'm just living quietly, making tea in the morning, reading at night, breathing again. Some people still say I picked a cat over kids. That's fine. Let them. I picked peace over dysfunction. And if they made me choose again tomorrow, I'd do it twice as fast.